The house smelled like roses and hairspray, and I could feel the weight of it all. The excitement, the nerves, the years of little girl daydreams finally landing in the real world. I stood in my childhood bedroom, holding my veil, staring at the same mirror that once reflected pimple cream and diary tears. Now it showed a woman in white, about to get everything she ever wanted. Or so I thought. My mom kept popping in, taking candid photos and humming some lullaby she used to sing to me. My dad peeked in with a thumbs up and watery eyes. I felt loved. I felt lucky. Daniel had been his usual steady self all week, calm, reassuring, so gentle with me. That morning, we went over the seating chart one last time, laughing about where to stick Aunt Kathy and her dramatic storytelling. I kissed him goodbye with butterflies swirling in my chest. There wasn't a single red flag, not one weird moment. Everything felt solid. I even texted Bella after he left, teasing her about how he seemed more excited than I was. She sent back heart emojis and 3 exclamation marks. My maid of honor, my sister, my best friend, everything felt safe. That night, I stayed at my parents' house. One last sleepover in the room we once shared, me and Bella. We sat cross-legged on the bed, talking about childhood crushes and how weird it was that I was actually getting married. She brushed my hair while we laughed about the time I cut her bangs in 3rd grade. I remember feeling full, grateful, like life had come full circle, and somehow we'd all made it through. But then, around midnight, I picked up Daniel's phone, just to confirm the cake delivery time, and everything changed in an instant. The screen lit up before I even unlocked it, a preview of a message, sitting there like it was waiting for me. I almost didn't read it. I wish I hadn't. But my eyes scanned the words before my brain had time to stop them. Are you sure you want to marry her and not me? You know I'll always do whatever you want. My heart actually stopped. I stared at the name above the message. Bella. My fingers went cold. I read it again, and then again. I didn't say anything. Not right away. I just stood there in the dark, in my childhood bedroom, holding someone else's phone like it had burned me. My ears started ringing. I could hear Bella's voice downstairs, laughing with my mom over the flower arrangements. My stomach twisted. I wanted to run down and scream, to shake her and demand answers, but I couldn't move. All I could do was sit on the edge of my bed and feel every single thing unravel inside me. The lies, the moments, the memories, they all turned to dust. And Daniel. God, Daniel. I thought I'd cry for him, but I didn't. Not then. It was her. It was Bella. My person. My anchor. My no matter what since we were kids. I couldn't even make sense of it. How do you grieve someone who's still in the next room, laughing like she didn't just stab you in the heart? I kept staring at the ceiling like it might give me answers. But all I got was silence. A cold, heavy silence that settled over me like a weighted blanket I couldn't push off. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, still in my robe, staring at the phone on my nightstand like it might explain itself. My mind kept flipping through old memories like photographs. Bella helping me pick my dress, Daniel kissing my forehead in the car, the 3 of us laughing at the cake tasting. Were they laughing behind my back the whole time? How long had this been going on? I wanted answers, but I also didn't, because deep down, I already knew. Around 4 a.m., I got up and washed my face. My eyes were puffy, my body aching like I'd run a marathon I never signed up for. But I kept hearing my friends' voices from earlier that day. You're going to be such a beautiful bride. I can't wait to see you walk down the aisle. It was like their joy had trapped me. Like canceling everything would mean letting them down too. I didn't want pity. I didn't want questions. I didn't want anyone to know I had been blindsided the night before my wedding. So I made a choice. I wouldn't cancel. I wouldn't run. I'd show up, just not the way anyone expected. There's something strange that happens when your heart breaks that completely. You stop shaking. You stop crying. Everything sharpens. I looked at myself in the mirror and, for the first time, saw someone I hadn't met before. Someone who had nothing left to lose. And in that stillness, I made a silent promise. If they thought I would fall apart quietly, they were wrong. I woke up feeling nothing. Not peace, not rage. Just that hollow kind of nothing that comes after a storm, when everything's been torn down but the wind hasn't stopped howling. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from friends, bridesmaids, cousins, all full of exclamation points and little hearts. Today's the big day. I'm crying already. And I just stared at the screen, letting them pile up like snow I didn't ask for. I didn't respond. What would I even say? I sat on the floor of my room, clutching a throw pillow like it could hold me together. The betrayal felt like a wildfire crawling under my skin. Slow, hot, inescapable. But it wasn't Daniel who broke me. It was her. Bella. My blood, my echo, my built-in best friend. I kept thinking of the sleepovers, the late-night talks, the way she used to hold my hand when I had nightmares. How do you mourn someone who's still breathing in the same house? I wanted to scream and disappear at the same time. Instead, I stayed quiet, still. I replayed every conversation from the last year, twisting them inside out, searching for clues I'd missed. Her voice in my head, her perfume on my clothes. I wondered how many moments were real and how many were rehearsed. Had she felt guilty? Had she laughed behind my back? Or worse, had she told herself I deserved it somehow? I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal or the fact that I couldn't even tell where it began. The house was quiet that morning. Too quiet. I could hear the soft thud of someone moving downstairs, probably Bella, but I stayed frozen in my room, like the carpet had roots around my ankles. I didn't want to see her face. I didn't want to hear her voice. Because I didn't trust myself not to explode. My hands kept trembling, even though my heart felt numb. I opened the window just a crack and let the morning air sting my cheeks. I needed to feel something real, something that didn't lie to me. Every buzz from my phone felt like a slap, photos pouring in from the bridesmaids already getting ready. A video from one of my cousins at the venue, panning over the chairs and the arch I'd picked out 6 months ago. It's so beautiful, Jess. You did it. I turned off the sound. The disconnect between what everyone thought was happening and what I knew in my bones was unbearable. I felt like I was watching my own life from outside a glass wall, waving, smiling, screaming on mute. I kept thinking someone might notice. That maybe my mom would knock on my door and say, "Something feels off, sweetheart." But no one did. Everyone was moving forward, assuming joy. And I didn't stop them. Because even though everything was broken, I wasn't ready to hand them the pieces. Not yet. I needed time. I needed control. I needed something that was still mine. So I sat there, heartbeat slow and sharp, and started to picture what showing up on my terms would actually look like. By mid-morning, I had stopped shaking. Not because it didn't hurt anymore. It did. It still felt like my chest had 1,000 cuts inside it. But something shifted. I wasn't just the girl who got betrayed. I was the woman who was about to walk into a room full of people and decide how this story would be told. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to cry on cue. If they were going to lie to my face, I could lie right back, with a dress, a smile, and a plan. I pulled out my gown and laid it across the bed like it was a costume for a role I had to play. And maybe it was. The dress was still beautiful, untouched by the truth. Ivory lace, soft and delicate. A lie in fabric form. I wondered if Bella would zip me into it like nothing happened. I wondered if Daniel would flinch when he saw me. Part of me hoped he would, but more than anything, I wanted to look so untouchable that neither of them could read a single thought on my face. I didn't know exactly how I'd do it. Not yet. But I knew I wasn't walking away. Not quietly. They'd see me walk down that aisle. They'd see me stand in front of everyone they fooled. And they'd wait for the vows, expecting promises and devotion. Instead, they'd get the truth. Maybe not today. Maybe not all at once. But I was going to take back the one thing they never saw coming, the power they thought I gave up when they chose each other. The morning sun was almost too bright, like it didn't get the memo that the bride wasn't exactly glowing on the inside. I sat in front of the mirror, letting the makeup artist work her magic while I floated somewhere outside my own body. Concealer covered the shadows under my eyes, blush warmed my cheeks, and lipstick painted on the version of me that everyone expected. I didn't cry. I didn't fidget. I just smiled when asked and nodded when needed. If pain had a costume, I was wearing it perfectly. Bella was buzzing around me, full of fake excitement I tried not to breathe in. She held my bouquet at one point, adjusted my hair, even kissed my cheek. I let her. Every touch made my skin crawl, but I didn't flinch. I think she thought everything was fine, that her secret was still buried, safe behind my silence. I wondered how she could look me in the eye without blinking. Maybe guilt had a different face when you weren't the one bleeding from it. The bridal suite was full of soft chatter and clicking heels, champagne glasses clinking in the background. I heard my name in whispers, compliments on the dress, on my poise, on how Jessica's always been so graceful. I swallowed it all like bad wine. Grace wasn't what held me together. It was the fire under my skin, the quiet storm I'd chosen not to unleash. Not yet. I wasn't there to collapse. I was there to deliver something they weren't expecting, and every second brought me closer to that moment. The drive to the venue felt like moving through a dream I didn't belong in. Outside the window, everything was soft and beautiful. Blue skies, blooming trees, people arriving in elegant clothes. I sat in the back seat, hands folded on my lap, veil resting lightly over my shoulders. My mom kept turning around, gushing about how proud she was. "You're going to be so happy, honey," she said. I nodded, heart steady but distant. I wasn't going to be happy today, but I was going to be ready. The venue looked just like I'd imagined. Lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, rose petals lined the aisle, and the arch stood tall, the one I picked with Daniel months ago, back when I thought forever was real. I walked into the bridal holding room like a porcelain doll, all smooth lines and delicate silence. No one saw the crack running through the middle. Bella followed close behind, adjusting her dress, giggling at something someone texted her. I wondered if it was him. I didn't ask. I just waited. Somewhere in the crowd, Daniel stood at the altar. I imagined him checking his watch, shifting his weight from foot to foot, doing that thing where he tugs his cufflinks when he's nervous. I wondered if he had any idea, if his heart raced with anticipation or fear, or if he still thought he had gotten away with it. Everyone else waited with joy. I waited with purpose. I could feel the moment coming closer, like thunder in the distance. And still, I smiled for the cameras. The music began, soft, elegant, romantic, the kind of melody that was supposed to carry me into the arms of the man I loved. I stood at the edge of the aisle, bouquet in hand, heart still, not racing, just still. My father looked at me, eyes glassy with emotion, and whispered, "You ready, sweetheart?" I smiled, not because I was ready to marry, but because I was ready to let the truth breathe. I took his arm, and we stepped into the light. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but for all the right reasons. I looked beautiful. At least that's what they saw. My dress shimmered in the sunlight, my posture unshakable. I saw Bella in the corner of my eye, smiling wide, like she hadn't just shattered me 48 hours earlier. Daniel stood tall at the altar, trying to look composed, but his jaw clenched slightly when our eyes met. He didn't know what I knew. Not yet. And the not knowing was the part I savored most. With each step, I felt something lift off of me. The fear, the hesitation, the last pieces of the girl who believed in fairy tales. All of it fell away, soft as petals. When I reached him, I took my place, facing the man who betrayed me and the sister who smiled through lies. The officiant began. The room was still. All eyes were on me. And when it came time to speak, not vows, but truth, I opened my mouth with a calm that didn't belong to a bride. I took the microphone with steady hands. My bouquet was resting on a nearby chair. I didn't need anything to hold on to anymore. Daniel smiled at me, expectantly. Bella gave me a small thumbs up from the front row. They had no idea, not even a flicker of suspicion on their faces. I started my vows the way any bride would. Daniel, when we met, I thought I knew what love was. My voice was smooth, soft, even warm. For a moment, they relaxed, but then I paused, just long enough. I looked out at the faces of friends, family, people who had flown in from everywhere to celebrate something they believed in, and I felt the weight of that lie pressing on my chest like a stone. So I shifted. "Before I make any promises," I said, "there's something I need to share." The air changed. I heard someone clear their throat. Chairs creaked, and then, I pulled out my phone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just read the message word for word. Are you sure you want to marry her and not me? You know I'll always do whatever you want. My voice didn't crack, but the room did. People turned. Heads jerked toward Bella. I didn't have to say her name. They saw it. I glanced at Daniel. His face went white, then red, then pale again. And Bella? She froze like time had stopped and taken her with it. I let the silence settle. I didn't fill it. I wanted every person in that room to sit with what they'd just heard. I looked at Bella, really looked at her. She couldn't meet my eyes. Her smile was gone, replaced by that hollow stare people get when they're caught and don't know which face to wear. Daniel opened his mouth slightly, like he might say something, but nothing came out. And I stood there, still, the only one in control. I loved you both, I said, but you didn't love me back. Not enough to tell me the truth. Not enough to stop. I turned to the guests, my voice never raised, my words sharp and deliberate. I won't be marrying him today, and they'll have a lot to explain, to each of you, to themselves. No theatrics, no screams, just truth. I wasn't there to make a scene. I was there to hand them the one thing they tried to hide from: exposure. Then I slipped the ring off my finger. I could feel 1,000 eyes tracking every small movement, but all I focused on was the weight lifting from my hand. I held the ring out to Daniel, not with anger, but with the kind of detachment you feel when a chapter truly ends. He took it, hesitating like it might burn him. And that was it. No, I'm sorry. No last words. I turned, slowly, and walked down the aisle, not toward a new life with him, but away from one built on lies. Each step away from that altar felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. The whispers behind me grew louder. Questions, confusion, someone even calling my name. But I kept walking. Down the aisle lined with flowers I no longer cared about. Past faces frozen in disbelief. I wasn't walking out of a wedding. I was walking out of a performance I never agreed to finish. Outside, the air was cooler than I expected. The sky was still perfect, too perfect, like it didn't care about human things. I stood there for a second, just breathing. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. From freedom. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I just stood tall in a dress meant for a bride, now worn by a woman who refused to be broken. A few guests came out after me, unsure of what to say. I waved them off gently. I wasn't ready for words. I didn't answer my phone. I didn't turn around. I got into the car waiting at the curb, driver confused, veil trailing behind me like the final sentence of a chapter that no longer needed rewriting. As we pulled away, I saw the venue shrinking in the rearview mirror, a place that once held my dreams, now just a building full of consequences. And as we drove into the unknown, I didn't feel lost. I felt whole. And I knew this wasn't the end. Not even close. I disappeared, and it was exactly what I needed. No dramatic social media post. No long explanation, just silence. I turned off my phone, packed a small bag, and left the city with no plan other than to find air that didn't feel borrowed. The first few nights I didn't sleep much. My body was still holding onto the adrenaline, like it expected another betrayal around every corner. But eventually, the quiet became something sacred. Something mine. Daniel called. So did Bella. Dozens of missed calls, texts, voicemails I never listened to. Apologies, maybe. Excuses, definitely. I didn't care. Let them fumble through their shame in public. Answer questions, dodge stares, rewrite the story a dozen different ways. That wasn't my problem anymore. People who once gushed about us started unfollowing them. Invitations dried up. The perfect image cracked. And I let it all happen without lifting a finger. Some truths reveal themselves better when you step out of the spotlight. I spent days by the ocean, letting the waves remind me what peace sounded like. I ate when I was hungry, slept when I was tired, cried only when I felt safe. I took walks with no destination, journaled until my hand cramped, sat barefoot in the sand, and let the salt air remind me that life moves forward, no matter who tries to anchor you in the past. I was still hurt, still healing. But for the first time, I wasn't performing for anyone. I wasn't trying to prove I was okay. I just was. Little things started to feel like victories. Making my own coffee without anyone around, laughing at a book, catching my reflection and not wincing. I didn't try to rush it. I let the grief have space, but I didn't let it rule the house. Some mornings, I'd wake up thinking about Daniel's face, Bella's betrayal, the way the room went still when I read that message out loud. But the pain didn't hit as sharply anymore. It dulled. It softened. And in its place, something else began to grow. Clarity. I started investing in myself again. Not just with money, but with time, attention, kindness. I signed up for a writing workshop in a little coastal town, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like someone's fiancé. I felt like me. I let strangers see me without the weight of expectation. There were no whispered judgments, no awkward condolences, just space. Space to speak, to create, to stretch without guilt. And I used every inch of it. Some days I still thought about confronting them again, saying something final, definitive. But I never did. Because what would be the point? They were already living the consequences. I didn't need to add to it. The best revenge wasn't cruelty. It was peace. And I was starting to understand that real healing doesn't come with applause. It comes quietly, like breath returning after you didn't even realize you'd been holding it. One evening, I sat on a wooden bench overlooking the sea, my journal resting in my lap. The sun was slipping below the horizon, painting the sky in soft streaks of gold and bruised pink. The waves rolled in like a lullaby I hadn't heard since childhood. That's when I started writing my own vows. Not for a partner, not for a ceremony, but for me. No audience, no white dress, just ink and truth. I wrote slowly, carefully, as if every word stitched me back together. I promise, I wrote, to never ignore my intuition again, to never shrink myself to make someone else comfortable, to never let someone stay who doesn't honor my heart. My hand trembled, not from sadness, but from release. I promised to protect my peace, to choose honesty over illusion, and to give myself the love I once begged others to return. And as I signed the bottom of the page, I realized this vow carried more weight than any I could have spoken at an altar. There was no groom, no kiss to seal it. Just me, a woman who walked away, not because she was weak, but because she finally saw her own worth. I closed the journal, pressed it to my chest, and smiled. Not the kind of smile you fake for photos. A real one, small, steady, and earned. My story didn't end at the altar. It didn't even begin there. It began here, with silence, with strength, with freedom. And this time, I chose me.